Thank you, Arnie. Welcome. The reference here, I think, to the international nature of the conference, I think it would be appropriate for us to maybe take a moment of silence to reflect on what happened in Brussels yesterday. It was a shocking reminder, yet again, of how we all are interconnected and how we're sort of in this together. Whether it's international issues of security and efforts to fight global terror, or it's efforts to fight climate change, where we're all in it together. I am pleased to have an opportunity to share a few thoughts with you, to welcome you to Portland. We'd like to think that maybe we're the American epicenter of mass timber production. We've got a lot of energy here. That phone booth that Arnie's talking about. First of all, for those of you who are millennials, phone booths are where they used to have telephones, and you wouldn't take a smart card, you would take a coin and you would put it in to operate. And then you would hear a dial tone. I mean, these are things Arnie, you need to help in the translation because we're dealing with everybody at this point. But that phone booth not only is getting bigger, but we have people who have ideas about how to make that phone booth out of wood. It's an opportune time to talk about an emerging technology here in Portland and in a number of areas around the country. New technology, except, well, it's not so new. Timber, as you know, has played a critical role in the building of America, in its development. Unfortunately, there were some inherent limitations in terms of safety, strength, fire, and building codes that required some limitations. But the modern techniques to laminate, treat, and process wood to make cross-laminated timber really slowly taking hold enables us to throw many of those old restrictions out the window. We'd like to think that Portland is part of a sweet spot on a cutting edge, but there are people here who are helping create the curve, not just be ahead of it. We're proud that a Portland CLT building design team won of the 2 awards last year for the USDA Tall Wood Building Construction Competition. And with innovators and supporters like Beneficial State Bank, Project, Home Forward, Lever Architecture, we are both working to make that curve and help get ahead of it. We're also looking for ways to help bring rural and small-town Oregon together, and applications because of people here throughout the Northwest that we can, it isn't unique to Oregon. There are always interests in terms of agriculture and sustainable tourism, but being able to coax more productivity out of our forests in an environmentally sensitive and sustainable fashion, creating jobs across our state, and maybe a number of yours, should be a high priority for us all. I must confess, I'm a bit of a wood junkie. Before any of you were born, I was in the Oregon legislature chairing a revenue committee and working hard on timber taxation, where we reformed how we taxed this critical product of Oregon. Over the years, I've collected a number of wood bow ties somehow that gravitate in my direction. My son has a furniture manufacturing operation here in Portland, the joinery, that just revels in sustainable wood, and I'm in awe of what he and his team do. In Congress, I've spent a lot of time working on illegal logging, extending Lacey Act protections to stop the cheaters around the world from bringing in timber to this country that undercuts American forest products, several $billions a year, and gives the cheaters an unnecessary advantage. And we're seeing some progress being made fighting illegal logging, most recently in Peru. Part of a trade agreement that is modestly controversial, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, has elements to deal with fighting deforestation. These are things that have profound consequences for all of us in terms of sustainability, water supply, carbon footprints, and having an opportunity to advance CLT technology gives us an opportunity to enhance forest health without attacking the iconic old-growth timber supplies. In many West Coast cities, we're in the midst of a building boom, and housing costs are skyrocketing. Having an opportunity with this technology to be able to deal with affordability, to be able to deal with construction that is potentially faster, it has more sustainable aspects, not just with carbon. Concrete is a prodigious emitter of carbon, but being able to protect carbon in the forests and be able to have buildings that are essentially little carbon sinks and more sustainable over time. You have an opportunity to create extra value. People will pay more for innovative, sustainably designed buildings. That's where those millennials that don't know what a phone booth is know where they want to work. And people are more productive in that environment. And being on the cutting edge of that technology helps us with that revolution as well. I've heard from some of you who are involved with this in Oregon that we still haven't quite worked out all the kinks administratively, that there have been some hang-ups between local building code administrators and folks at the state level with some vexing problems, but they are things that are solvable. And your help in enabling us to focus on what we need to do with regulations that are appropriate to the technology of today can have, I think, very significant consequences. Helping us pioneer what the federal government can do to help advance this technology. The federal government is the largest employer, landlord, and landowner in the United States. A lot of it's timberland. The GSA has tens of thousands of buildings. Working with that federal building inventory to be able to utilize the technology, I think, is critical. The federal government, back in the day, helped jumpstart railroads by lavishly subsidizing them and had some impact with timber development in this country. Aviation was subsidized by the federal government. The internet wasn't just Al Gore, but it was investments by the federal government to jumpstart it. Why shouldn't we be doing this with this technology? The Department of Defense, as you know, is currently doing blast testing on wood panel buildings to test for fire safety and reduce the permitting time. Let's build on that. I got last week a great list from some of our friends about federal initiatives they think would make a difference. And I plan on using those recommendations to look for opportunities for grants and funding at the federal level. We would like you to think about applications that would make a difference. The federal government should be there with money, chalk, and marbles, starting with its own inventory. I am proud that just 2 blocks away we have the greenest building in the entire federal portfolio, a federal office building that was part of the Recovery Act that has made a big difference here in terms of its sustainability over time and the employees who work there. Being able to have this technology for other federal projects makes all the sense in the world. The federal government, despite what you hear from some of the people on the campaign trail when you can't quite block it out, the federal government is going to be a cornerstone of America for centuries. We're building projects, ideally, that last not just for decades, but through the end of this century and beyond. And so being able to utilize technology in a comprehensive way is something that ought to pencil for the federal government, because we should be looking at the long haul. But we look at the budgets in terms of the money that's available. The federal government ought to be looking at the carbon budget. And the carbon footprint of mass timber projects is remarkably lower. And if we're going to meet our objectives to not cook the planet, we need to have the federal government lead by example in ways large and small, and this is one of the ways we can do that here. One of the things that I find exciting is what we're seeing here is a reflection of mass timber construction, that we have some problems in this country we're trying to work out, but there are many of you around the world that are ahead of us. And an opportunity to be sort of open source this, to learn from one another, I think is very important. There will be enough business for everybody if we get this right. And to be able to share the techniques and the opportunities, to share what different governments are doing to provide incentives, to be able to deal with best practices and trying to streamline outmoded building codes and requirements. We're all in this together, and the science ought to prevail. Having meetings like this, sharing experiences and dreams and aspirations is critical to put the foundation under this movement. I'm pleased that you are having this session here. We invite you back. We think we'll be able to show you more projects over the course of the next 5 years, and to be able to continue this area of cooperation with our government, other businesses, and governments around the planet, to be able to maximize the potential of this dynamic new development. Thank you for the privilege of being with you today. We appreciate the work you're doing in pioneering this effort, and looking forward to being your partner in Congress so that the federal government does its job to help lead by example and being a full partner in this effort. Thank you very much.